Good morning again. This is Brenda Perryman, and welcome to my show. And we just had a wonderful segment with Shaka Senghor, and we have another wonderful segment right now with Mr. Michael Garrett. He's the president of Community Network Services.
Yes, that's correct.
And why don't you tell us, Michael, what kind of organization is that? Or, well, it's a network.
Yes, Community Network Services is a grassroots mental health organization that was started about 20 years ago. We've been incorporated as Community Network Services, or CNS, for the past 12. Prior to that, we were part of the St. Joseph Mercy Oakland Hospital System. We have 4 locations spread out through Oakland County: Southfield, Pontiac, Waterford, and Farmington Hills, and we provide mental health care services to over 6,000 residents annually in Oakland County.
Wow. Just in Oakland County?
Just in Oakland County for the bulk of those, but we do have people that we do serve in Wayne and Macomb counties as well.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So let's first talk a little about you.
Sure.
Where are you from?
I am a native son of Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, good, good, good. Where'd you go to
Absolutely.
high school?
Cass Tech.
I have so many technicians on this show.
Well, that means it's a good show. I'm one of the few who've born and raised in the city of Detroit, Michigan. My family has lots of roots in Southwest Detroit, and I've been through the
Really?
the DPS school system, K through 12. Never had any private education, and it's been a product of the Detroit public school system my entire life. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. I knew the McNeelys and I knew a lot of people in Southwest Detroit, the Herds and the Hudsons and all these people. Great community, great community. And so when you went to Cass Tech, did you know that you wanted to help people, or was it college that influenced you?
I had a lot of great influences in my life that really helped me get to the point to where I am right now. One of the things I like to tell people is that, if you're successful in this world, very seldom does anyone do it all by themselves. There's usually a support structure around, whether that be mentors, family, parents, friends, aunts, uncles, people in the neighborhood, whoever, that really help you along your journey. And I'm no different. I've had several mentors in my life that have really helped propel me to where I am right now. I never thought about not going to college when I was coming up. I was raised by a single mother. I never knew my father until I was 15 years old, and even then, he was only in my life maybe a couple of months at that point in time.
You know, that's why I love black men so much, because they are overcomers. You look at Shaka, and you said you were impressed with
Absolutely.
his story. He has definitely been an overcomer.
Well,
And you know, a lot of people, but it's not a shortcoming being raised by a single mother, because after my parents separated, my mother was a single mother. After I got a divorce, I was a single mother, and my children are doing okay.
well, when I talked earlier about having people in your life that really help propel you to where you are today, my mother was a huge influence in that. The strength that it takes to raise a child, and particularly to raise a male child in the city, and we lived all over the place. We lived in Hamtramck, we lived in Highland Park, we lived on the east side, we lived on the west side. I wasn't one of those children that, when people typically think about only children, because I don't have any brothers or sisters, they think that, well, you're spoiled, you had everything growing up. Absolutely not. We were on social assistance ever since I can remember. As a child, and the strength that it took for my mother to continue to raise me, to continue to teach me the right values over time, is something that I marvel at to this day.
Yeah, because sometimes with young people, the outside influences really become their major influence.
Yes, and there are lots of influences out there. As your previous guest talked about, growing up in the city, there are drugs, there's violence, At the time I was coming up, there were gangs. There were all kind of influences.
Did you ever
out
find
there.
yourself with this need to survive or trying to survive, or you just never were around a particular element? Or?
I was around the element, and because you can't help but to be.
I
If you're,
know.
if you're growing
That's
up in
what
the
I'm
city,
asking you.
it's all around you. I mean, there's gun violence, there's drugs, and there's lots of things growing up in the city. Me, I never saw that was going to be
Your
my
life.
way out.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew I needed to do something different because I had lots of older cousins. Even though I didn't have any brothers and sisters, I had lots of older cousins who were in that life. And looking at the way that their lives were going is not something that I wanted to follow in their footsteps or to repeat.
So after college, what happened? After high school. I've already got you through college. I just was in high school.
That's okay. After high school, I went to Northern Michigan University.
Oh, okay.
All the way in the Upper Peninsula, usually the coldest place in the state if you listen to all the weather reports.
Yeah.
But I made that choice consciously. I needed to get away, as far away as I could, from some of the trappings of the environment that I grew up in. But I also didn't want to leave the state because I did want to stay close and connected to my family as well. But I needed to be far enough away that I wouldn't be tempted to come home at the first sign of trouble.
So what was your major?
My major is accounting and finance, actually.
Okay, now we get to the story. How did you get involved with mental health?
When I graduated from college, one of my first jobs out of college was working for my uncle's CPA firm. He had a small CPA firm located in River Rouge, Michigan, and a lot of our audit clients were mental health facilities. So I did that for 2 years, and I got indoctrinated and got a wealth of knowledge about mental health care. And it was an area that prior to that work experience I knew nothing about. But when you learn about it, you hear the stories, you find out exactly how important it is. It's a career path that I chose to stay involved in even after my public accounting experience.
So what was the first agency you worked with?
The first agency I actually audited in Wayne County was an organization called Residential Care Alternatives. What they did is they were located in the Cass Corridor area in the city and served the mental health needs for several thousand people in that area. And that was the first organization that I really kind of cut my teeth with in mental health.
Well, you're president of Community Network Services. When did you start working with them, or they hired you to be president? Tell me something.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get into the organization, but how you got there.
Well, sure. As I started working, I've only been president of CNS for 2.5 years now. My travels in the mental health care field has taken me to work for community case management. I worked for the Detroit Wayne County Community Mental Health Authority. I worked for the Oakland County Community Mental Health Authority. And my travels took me to CNS after the previous president, who's actually an African American woman, who started the organization, decided she wanted to spend more time with her grandkids. I started working there as a consultant. I really got to know the board of directors well, and I really connected with them. So when she announced her retirement plans, they thought it was a natural succession plan for me to take over as CEO. And here I am. We are classified as a mid-sized organization. We have 250 employees and annual revenues of about $33 million.
Really?
Yes.
Revenues. That means money taken in, right?
That's correct.
Well, tell us about this. Tell us, okay, you deal with all types of mental health issues.
Yes, but when people think about mental health, it's really more than just the people that you see that are checked into psychiatric institutions, for example.
I know.
We deal with mental health. We deal with substance abuse.
Yes.
Mental health also includes services to children who have autism, diseases like that, post-traumatic stress disorder, particularly for people who live in urban communities and for people who are returning
And that's
to the
something that
communities from
Shaka
war.
was talking about, the PTSD.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we deal with people who have that all the time. We have suicide prevention programs. We have young adult mentoring programs. We have supported employment programs. And we also have a nationally recognized anti-stigma program that does presentations
And I
in the
want to
community.
talk about that briefly. Now,
Please,
there's
it's
a
important.
stigma connected with mental health, especially in our community.
You know, it's interesting. We've all been around our families, and we all have those people in our family that we anecdotally call crazy. That we, whether it be an aunt or an uncle or somebody along the lines, and we just kind of write that stuff off. Unfortunately, there's something there in those issues with those folks that need to be explored. The single biggest barrier that exists in our community and in the country is stigma. People will not come forward and admit that they're struggling with some type of mental health issue, whether that be depression, whether that be obsessive compulsive disorder, whether that be post-traumatic stress disorder. People are not ashamed to tell you that they have the flu or that they have the cold or that they have diabetes, but they are ashamed or embarrassed to tell you that they're suffering from depression.
Oh, right. I agree. And a lot of family members do not confront, well, I won't say confront, don't talk to their family members about seeking help.
No, not at all. It's used the most of the people that come into our system that we treat, unfortunately, come through the emergency rooms or unfortunately through the criminal justice system. Jails, prisons have become the new mental health facilities in this country.
Yes, they have. And I'm wondering, with all of the so-called murders, like the one at the movie theater in Arizona. Remember that, where the guy just
In Aurora,
and
Colorado,
then
yes.
in Aurora, and then he had his eyes were like that. Now they're starting to pay attention a little more, but it's not enough because here in Michigan they closed so many mental health facilities.
Yes, that was done under former Governor Engler. Right, when he closed all the psychiatric hospitals. And all of those people, those psychiatric hospitals serve thousands of people statewide. I mean, tens of thousands of people statewide. And now you're dumping, well, they were dumped, those people were dumped into the community without any plans for supports or transition plans or how these folks were going to be managed in the community going forward.
Once again, talking about people who were neglected.
Yes.
And didn't have a follow-up. Nobody followed up with them. They just dumped them out.
Yeah, organizations like CNS were able to absorb some of those people, and there are other organizations around the state like us that took those people in. But it should have been a smoother transition process than the way it was handled.
So you're looking to destigmatize or, that in the communities. How are you doing that?
With people coming forward telling their stories. Most people don't realize that mental health doesn't necessarily have a face. You can't look at somebody necessarily and tell that they're mentally ill without talking to them, without engaging them, without understanding the background issues that they're dealing with. People have to be able to feel comfortable coming forward and talking about that. We've heard a lot of in the news lately about acts of gun violence, whether that be the Naval Yard shooting, whether that be Aurora, Colorado, whether that be the Columbine, Sandy Hook,
right.
All of that. All of those instances could have been prevented if people would have been able to recognize the signs of mental illness and seek help for these individuals. You look at the issue of the Naval Yard shooting. That person was actively receiving treatment. However, the signs weren't taken seriously. For example, if they were taken seriously, that situation, could have been prevented. Most suicides can be prevented.
You think so?
Oftentimes, people who commit suicide look for an outlet first. They talk to somebody, they may mention some suicide comments in passing, or start to plan for their life after this current life. Most of the times we write those things off. We don't pay attention to them. So and so's having a bad day. They're just a little down right now. No, no. Those types of things are to be taken seriously. It's not something that's considered normal for persons to contemplate suicide or taking their own life.
Well, there are people who've tried it a number of times, and I knew a girl once who tried it, but then she made a phone call before it. She took pills and stuff, so sometimes she was still reaching out. And what's so good about it is they got to her, they saved her, and then she got the right help, and she's living a very positive life, productive life. She's married, lives on the East Coast and everything. Sometimes people feel they can't get past a certain point, you know. They feel nobody's there, but my mother always says the wind doesn't blow the same way all the time. So if you could just get through it, it's like quitting smoking. A lot of people say, I can't quit. Well, initially when you quit, you try to quit, you're going to have that craving, but then after a while, that craving just goes away. It does. And so you can make it a little while longer, and it becomes longer and longer. But some people, it's hard. And a lot of people, you have substance abuse here.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that pills, medication, is a form of substance abuse too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Alcohol, pills, substance abuse, some of the classic hard drugs that we talk about. But also, there are a number of people out there who have substance use disorders that also have mental health issues at the same time.
Right.
Oftentimes, people, when they're dealing with mental health issues, some of them look to what we call self-medicate, whether that be alcohol, whether that be pills, whether that be some other type of drug that they use to cope with the mental health challenges that they're currently having. As you talked about earlier, and your previous guest talked about earlier, you're talking about post-traumatic stress disorders. Not to change subjects real quick. What we found is that the symptoms and the signs of post-traumatic stress disorder for people that live in urban communities, whether they're subject to violence in the homes, violence in the streets, gun violence, is essentially the same as someone returning from active combat duty.
I believe it. I believe it. Well, you heard Shaka. He said after he had been shot, he just, became a little, edgy. He has to protect himself and so forth. You become nervous.
Yes.
But I know it's more than that, what you're talking about, but you react in different ways, right?
The symptoms and the signs and the trauma are essentially identical. So the treatment methods for those we found work in urban communities the same as we're treating returning soldiers coming from war. But the issue is trying to get at the people in the communities that are experiencing this trauma on a daily basis. Okay, that access into those communities sometimes can prove challenging because, one, people don't want to talk about it. Two, sometimes people don't think that they need help. But you have to have someone around them, that familial support structure or friends and family, to say, hey, you've experienced something, you need to go talk to somebody, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, it's the way too people say it. If you said you need to go talk to somebody, well, maybe it's another way to phrase that, because sometimes if you say you need to go talk to somebody, people won't do it. But I think I can't help you with this, but I think I know somebody who can. Even if you help them find the person, that would be, or the agency. Tell us, how do people get to your agency? I mean, is this just an outpatient thing or what?
We actually have people who go out into the community and see people where they live.
Really?
So if someone is experiencing a mental health episode, or someone wants someone to talk to, or someone is referring somebody for care, the only thing they need to do is call us up. and contact us. And we can either help you directly or we can refer you to somebody that's closer to you in your community that can provide the help. The mental health system is unfortunately, one of the best kept secrets in this state and in this country.
How much
The help is
does
out there.
it cost?
For most people, especially now that the Affordable Care Act is here, whatever your insurance copay is, because we accept all commercial insurances for that. So for most of the people out there that need this, it's little to no cost.
Well, I want to go through a few things on here. You have psychiatric assessment and medication management.
Yes.
What is that? Is it while a person is seeing a psychiatrist or after the psychiatrist? What does this mean?
It's actually both. When you come in, you usually talk to a therapist first, and that therapist, even while you're on the phone, they're assessing what your current situation is. After that initial assessment is done, you say, well, this person might need to talk to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist during that visit will make a determination, for example, if medications are appropriate. Or they may say, look, this person is experiencing the episode because they lost a loved one,